morning, everybody, and welcome to Eggs and Issues. It is so hard to believe that it has been a full 12 months of virtual programming for this series, and we appreciate so many of you who have stuck with us throughout these last 12 months as we pivoted to what was our new normal during the pandemic. Many of you may know that at the end of last week, Governor Kemp loosened the restrictions on in-person gatherings, so we are so excited to be able to bring this important platform back in person for our next Eggs and Issues discussion at the Carrie Martin Conference Center, where we will host our Houston County Legislative Delegation on May the 13th. You mark your calendars and make sure you register. Seating will be limited, but we can't wait to see everybody there. I want to give a special thanks to our Eggs and Issues host sponsor, Houston Healthcare, for their continued support of our chamber, as well as our Eggs and Issues programming. And let's pause for a quick word from them before we welcome this morning's guest.
Preparation and attention to detail are keys to a successful outcome. At Houston Healthcare, our team of trainers and emergency personnel spend countless hours making sure that we're just as ready for game day as the teams we serve. From training room to sideline, our work starts long before the lights go on. So when it's time for us to take the field, we can provide the level of healthcare our athletes deserve. Houston Healthcare, supporting every player in every game that's played.
Thank you again for joining us. I'm your host, April Bragg with the Robbins Regional Chamber, and we are live this beautiful Thursday morning on Facebook and YouTube. So make sure you let us know where you're watching from today, and we hope to see you in person for our next Eggs and Issues. But today we have the pleasure of spending some time this morning with the City of Warner Robins Mayor Randy Toms to talk about some of the great things happening here in our community. Let's welcome Mayor Toms.
Good morning, April. How you doing?
Good morning, everyone. It's so good to see you. I can't wait to do this in person, but I want to thank you. I know this is the second time around that you've done this with us. And just so we can kind of get it out of the way, now that we're returning to more of our normal in-person, activities, can you give us a quick update on access to the city facilities and maybe what the next benchmarks are for the city offices to fully open back up to the public?
Yeah, let me first start by saying thanks for doing this. You've done a great job. You and your staff have done a great job over this year. This has been an incredible, difficult year for a lot of people. And so to have a regional chamber that has been so involved and so active in our community in every way possible, which some were not possible. But I just want to say thank you and what a difference you've made in our community, you and your staff. It's incredible. And I hear it all the time about what a great job the Robbins Regional Chamber is doing. So thank you for that. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, this is an exciting day to be here, to be hopefully the last virtual event we have. And so that's pretty exciting. I was actually looking forward to being in person, but that wasn't possible. But it's also a very important day to all of us. And I'm sure most of us would agree that it's the start of Masters today. And so I'm pretty excited about that. That's also a different environment, but what a great day.
Sure.
But this has been a difficult year for everyone. So I'll launch right into that. It's been a difficult year, and we've had to do some things that, that we didn't necessarily want to do. And I can assure you that COVID-19 and the access to our buildings, to public buildings, has been as frustrating on us and especially our employees as it has been on our citizens. So we are anxious to begin even more opening back up to the public on a regular, ordinary basis. Right now, we're open. I know that it's limited. You got to check in through the front door. You got to be scanned. You got all those safety requirements are still in place, but we're open. And if you need to come in, you can. It's preferable, on certain instances that you make an appointment to come in, but it's not necessary. We're going to take care of you the best way we can. We've had to change up a lot of things over this year, so a lot more information is available online. Some different ways to pay your bills, for example, are available online. And we've also ordered what I think is going to be a very exciting addition to our service area, and that is a kiosk is coming that we've already got on order. It's already in the process of making its way to Warner Robins, and it's going to come. It's going to be outside, and you're going to be able to do everything you need to do at that place. You're going to be able to pay your utility bill. You're going to be able to pay it with cash, check, or card. You're going to be able to do all the things that you need to do at a kiosk outside of City Hall. So as we go forward, as we watch what's happening on the COVID numbers and follow the governor's orders, step by step, we're going to try to open up a little bit more. Obviously you have what happened at midnight last night with the changes in the executive order that the governor put in place, but you also have the health emergency still in place until the end of April. So we're going to follow those guidelines step by step, but our plan is to slowly and carefully and cautiously open up a little bit more as we move forward. So things are opening up and we're available, we're here. But know this, it has been frustrating for us and our employees as much as it has for the citizens. So we're getting there.
Yeah. Well, and I want to thank you and, all of the employees of the city, whether they work at, City Hall proper, or all of our first responders and others. COVID wasn't a vacation for them, and the engagement has looked very different. But much like in our circumstances, it really has never been more meaningful. And so it's been a lot. I know y'all have gone through a lot of self-discovery, as we have, as our business community has, and returning to, normal isn't the same as it was, 12 months ago. There are other things that we have to consider. There are other expectations from the public and from engagement. And so I appreciate the intentionality that all of our municipalities have had in the responsibility they have to our citizenry for making sure that we're doing things, with everyone's best interest in mind. So with that said, again, like we just talked in November when we had a joint meeting with you and Mayor Harley with the city of Centerville, but a lot has changed. I mean, it really has been quite an eventful 6 months. So we just had a special election to fill the vacant seat for post 1 where Derek Mack was elected to serve. And so we've got some new leadership on council. Can you really share, it's the start of a new year. We've got a new composition on council. What are some of the priorities for the mayor and council right now?
Well, I think one of the big things we need to do is make sure that we get, and no disrespect intended whatsoever, but we get Mr. Mack up to speed with the processes as much as we can. I think we've made an effort over the last year to try to bring us more together and on the same page. And I think you've seen a lot of that. I think you've seen more getting along, if you will, on council and moving in the same direction. And then all of a sudden you have a change. You have, Mr. Lee for reasons stepping down, and Mr. Mack coming in, and that election was one of my favorite elections. It's one of the ones I'm not involved in, and so I always like those a lot more than the ones I am. So, but congratulations to Mr. Mack. He did a great job. He ran a strong, good campaign, and he's in office. He and I have talked frequently since he came in, and we are. We're figuring out how to communicate with each other. I think we're both fairly strong personalities at times, and so we're getting along. We're understanding each other, and I think our priorities are to certainly make sure that some of the money that we have invested continues to go in the right direction. Parks and Recreation, which I know we're going to talk about in a little bit, our sewer expansion in certain areas of our town, where we're growing and how do we control that growth. I think those are the priorities that we have in place, making sure that we stay fiscally strong. And I think, there's some people out there that are trying to make it look like, all cities are going broke. And so Warner Robins is going broke. And that's I'm telling you, far from the truth with the city of Warner Robins. And so I think things are really well. I think we need to, we're certainly Mr. Mack to his a little bit of detriment. He came into office right at budget season. And so we're starting budget season. So we're having to, adapt a lot of things to the budget and make sure that we put things in place. But financially, Warner Robins, Houston County has done really well, even during a global pandemic. And so I think some of the things that we see in the growth aspect making sure that we control the growth and we make sure that we move things in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know coming into any organization during budget season is trial by fire. Right. So we certainly wish him and the rest of council well as y'all prepare for this year and years to come. But, one of the silver linings of this past year has been the unexpected growth in our business community. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. But I know our construction industry was able to really get a lot done. And, we talked to Dr. Scott last month in this forum, and we're able to see, the progress on the new schools and gymnasiums and facilities that they had undertaken, and to see how those projects, came online kind of while everybody else was working on their business or navigating kind of the unknowns of 2020. A lot of progress and a lot of visible signs of progress have happened. And one of the more exciting and I guess fun things that we get to talk about each time we have one of these is Parks and Rec. Because it involves our entire community. It's focused on, families and bringing people together. And the most recent and notable development is the completion of the North Houston Road Sports Complex. Our friend Chris Dunn with Georgia Drone Pros went out yesterday for us to get a right in the moment update on that facility. So we're going to look at some of that beautiful footage, Mr. Mayor, and then we'll come back and talk about it in just a second.
Sounds good.
Wow. So before we got that footage from Chris, I had planned on just sharing with our audience. Until you've seen this in person, you really can't appreciate how massive it is. But when I saw the video last night, I thought, holy cow. This is so impressive. And to have this here as a resource in Warner Robins, number one, and I know a lot of people say, what are we going to do with a facility that big? But for you and other leaders who have served this community for a number of years, this is a long time coming, right?
Oh, yeah,
exciting plans.
We do. And, I think when I saw the video last night myself, I thought two things that came to my mind is it looks conceptual, but it's not conceptual.
Right. It's the real deal.
It's actually there. And then the other thing was, where is that? Because it's not in Warner Robins. Because nobody could ever have dreamed that we would have something that incredible in Warner Robins. In fact, just a couple of nights ago, maybe even last night, they were having some volleyball participation just to kind of try to see how it was going to work. And the people that were playing volleyball said, I can't believe this is Warner Robins. And so it's an incredible facility. Now, I can tell you that on the fiscal side, it was a little bit of fear and trepidation to in that area when you're launching into a global pandemic that you don't know how long it's going to last. But we did.
Absolutely.
Did it. And the whole idea to our sports and parks and recreations in the city of Warner Robins has been to meet the needs of our citizens, our children, our adults, our seniors, make sure that we meet the needs of those first. That was our first priority in parks and recreation. But also the secondary impact is that the bringing people from outside, bringing in tournament ball, bringing in visitors from outside so that they can come and enjoy our facilities and make sure that they also bring the welcome economic impact to our community. And we have already seen that. This past weekend, we had our first softball tournament held at the North Houston Road Recreation Complex. And while they were there was 25 teams, which is a heck of a start for our first tournament.
Yeah, that's amazing.
25 teams. The man that ran the tournament side of it itself said you can figure, without hotels involved, you can figure $100 per player. So you look at 25 teams with at least 10 players per team,
Right.
and you can start figuring the economic impact that we're going to realize out of our parks and recreations and the investment that we've made in our parks and recreation. I get excited. I can tell you, I get really excited about what we've done with our parks and recreations. We have that incredible facility. What a great video. And thanks to Chris Dunn for putting that together. And I've seen others. And of course, I've been there and I've seen it in
Right.
and you just can't wrap your mind around what it's like. So get out there and visit. Get out there, especially when there's play going on, and see what's happening. We also renovated Peavy Park and Simpson Field. And so while we had teams playing at the North Houston Road Complex, we also had teams playing over at Peavy Park this weekend. So we had a lot of activity within a 2-block area. So it's incredible. We have our football complex and track over at Tanner Park over off of Carl Vinson. We have, the tennis facilities that we're now partners with the Houston County Board of Education on, and that's going to work. And so much more has been done, and so much more is coming. We wanted to be the hub of parks and recreations for the state of Georgia right here in Warner Robins. And we have certainly put ourselves on the map when it comes to parks and recreations in Warner Robins.
Absolutely. And, we've spent the last several years discussing all of the investment that's gone into our parks and trails and all of the recreation facilities across our community over the last several years, really preparing for us to be able to have that outward focus to draw people into this area. And you and I were speaking just the other day, Mr. Mayor, about all the different sports that can be played in this complex. So I was going to see if you could just a quick rundown, because I don't think, when you see it, you think basketball, you think softball, but there's a lot more that can be played in the facility. You've already mentioned volleyball.
So to start with, we built the baseball fields. We have 4 baseball fields there now. We have plans for 5 additional fields as soon as possible now, because we realize what attention it's getting. And so they can house either baseball or softball. So that's a good thing. We built them intentionally to be able to do both. The building itself is incredible. We originally designed it it's got a track all the way around the top to start with. So that's great. 5 times around is a little over a mile, which tells you how big that facility is. Yeah. And then we of course can have basketball. Each basketball court, there's 4 basketball courts, and each court can accept 8 volleyball courts. So each court turns into 2 volleyball courts. So that's 8 volleyball games going on at the same time. And that was it. That was all we planned for that building. Right. But in the process, Mr. Jared Renaud, he and his staff have done, like an incredible work.
He's a rock star, right?
He is, but listen, his whole staff is. And I praise them every opportunity I get, because this past weekend showed the work that they've done and what happened because of the work they've done. And so he was approached by a man. I finally watched a video on it, but I still don't understand it, with the National Pickleball Association. And he said, if you make that gym available for pickleball, then we can eventually bring a national event to the city of Warner Robins with pickleball. So we went back in and changed it a little bit and retrofitted it. And so 4 basketball courts can hold 12 pickleball courts. Wow. And so now we have the ability to have basketball, volleyball, pickleball. And then we were also approached by somebody about, I have to make sure I don't say wrestling, but wrestling. And they've already planned for some wrestling events to be in there. So we don't really know the answer to what all can be held in that building, but it's a lot.
Yeah. And all I'm hearing is potential, which is incredibly exciting.
Yeah. And then again, the people that it brings to town for those events. Pickleball is even though I don't understand it, it's the fastest growing sport in the United States right now.
Are you serious?
Yes. I just heard that the other day. It's the fastest growing sport in the United States, pickleball. And we have the ability to hold 12 games at the same time at that complex. Plus, we're building some outdoor pickleball courts at another park, Ted Wright Park. We're going to have that attraction over there. And so it just continues to get better and better. with parks and recreations in the city of Warner Robins. It's exciting. It's really been exciting to watch it develop and then watch it come out of the ground and now become reality in so many places.
Yeah. Well, and what is so awesome about that too is, as you mentioned earlier, the economic impact of bringing people to our community. You know, we know that Houston County is a great place to raise a family, to be involved, to run a business and be part of our community. But we've got so much to share, you know, with those across the entire Southeast, and whether it's tournament baseball or pickleball, volleyball, whatever, you know, those draw full weekend participation. And so you've got people spending the night in hotels, eating meals here, shopping in our stores, filling up with gas and fuel, and all of that, you know, aids to the resources that are available for us here in our community, which is just really cool.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, if you look at the conversation about investment on the north side of town, we've done that.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to bring some real revitalization to the north side of town with making the investment we have. And I think that's what I really want people to understand, is that, yes, it's an expensive endeavor. And you can say, well, that was expensive to do. But if you look at it as an investment in a part of our community that it needed the investment. And listen, people came to that tournament over the weekend and they had no care in the world. They said, this is the best place you could have built this facility. Some were local. And that was fun to me to talk to some people that are fairly local that said, I drove 10 minutes to get here instead of 2 hours to go to another field. Yeah. And then I talked to some people while I was there Saturday that said, we came from South Georgia. We came from the Atlanta, and it was fun to know that people were now coming to Warner Robins instead of all of our people going elsewhere to spend their money in other towns. That was what was fun to me.
That's pretty cool. And I know, I mean, like you said, there was some initial, you know, maybe struggles or trepidation about the where and how much, but it really is a modern day field of dreams. It's exciting to kind of see things come to fruition, and I can't wait to see what's next as we kind of open it up for our community to see, and then, you know, to participate and watch some of the tournaments that are happening there. So,
but I will say this: I threw out the first pitch, and compared to the girls that are over there pitching, it was pretty terrible. It was.
Did you get it across the plate?
Slow. I did. I got it across the plate, but that's the only thing I did well, because I didn't even want to do it with those girls out there that had been throwing pitches, and I was knocking them, and I was like, I'm not doing that, but I'll get it across the plate, and I did.
Well, better you than me, because I'm totally dating myself here, but I was a slow pitch softball.
Well, mine was very slow as well, so yes.
Yes. Yeah, very good. Well, you know, Mr. Mayor, I think over, the last 4, 5, 6 weeks, you know, the top question that I get asked at the chamber has been about jobs. And, you know, our restaurants, our retailers, and others specifically in hospitality and service industry really struggling to find qualified workers. I'm excited, you know, to share with our audience, if you haven't already seen, we've partnered with a number of our development agencies across our community who focus on workforce development. That's what they do. But we learned during the pandemic that we were really great at gathering people together on Facebook and building community online. And so we launched Robins Works, a Facebook group for employers and job seekers to connect, to really find out about the opportunities, you know, throughout our community. But as we were looking, I know one of our earliest posts was from the city, and you've got a lot of departments and areas that are hiring. So if you could just give us a quick overview about what's available and how people can find jobs with the city. And then we're going to speak specifically about a couple of areas.
Yeah, I mean, they can certainly go to our website. And we post the job listings, you know, every week, actually. In fact, that's where one of the things I do every Friday is I look at the job postings. And if there's anybody that's asking me questions about jobs, I give them a call. But we're always looking for people in public works. We still have utility crews that are out there working. And listen, public works and utilities are the unsung heroes in our community. During a global pandemic, they haven't stopped. Stormwater management is out there. There's certainly been some delays. There's been some some issues with getting the workforce in at times that we do have, but we're always looking for help in those areas. We still have, an engineer position open that's available. We have a lot, and I think it's best just to say, go to our website, look at the job openings that are available on there. But also, in our community, look around. It is sad on one side that I hear so many employers that are having a hard time fielding job openings, and I think we certainly are thankful in our community, and we've been able to do fiscally well because of Robins Air Force Base, and that is our primary engine in Middle Georgia, and we need not ever forget that. That's one of the things I've been doing over the last year, as much as I could possibly do, is to continue to foster and nurture the relationship I have with the leadership at Robins Air Force Base. Even though most of the time we couldn't meet in person, we were still doing that. But yeah, we have a lot of job openings every week that we post, and it's important for people to go on there and see what we have. Now that City Hall is more open and more accessible, we post them upstairs right outside my office, actually, for at Human Resources, that people can come up and take a look at the job postings. In fact, it's been refreshing over the last couple of weeks to see people come in and actually filling out applications again, whereas we couldn't let them in the building before, but now they're able to come in and fill out applications right out in the lobby, and it's refreshing to see that again. And so now we know we're actually making a difference. We're looking for help in recreation, and we're looking for help in so many areas.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And, one of the things that I think is important for our viewers, just as we're going through this time where whether it's our municipalities or our businesses, need greater workforce, part of that demand is because business is good. And our community is really turning out to support our businesses and our community. But I just want to encourage everybody to, exercise an extra measure of grace, and to be courteous to those employees who are there and who are working perhaps, even more than their fair share in order to take care of business. And within the city, I know, speaking of hiring, a certain department that I know is near and dear to your heart, because of your past, is our fire department. And I'd love to, if we could, I know Chief Moulton, they put together a really neat recruitment video for the fire department that showcases some of the new things that have also happened in their area over the last year. So let's take a look at that, and then we'll talk some more on the other side.
Okay.
Okay, I realize I am not the target demographic for that, but there's some pretty cool big boy toys in that. And in talking to Chief Moulton, I believe they've got a number of positions open and are actually accepting applications through Friday. Is that correct?
That is correct. Actually, that was one of the first things I was going to point out, is that the application period closes tomorrow.
Okay. Perfect. So a lot of that video was shot in the new fire safety training facility. Can you share a little bit about that, as well as some other developments in the fire department?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you got my blood pumping a little bit, because I spent 27 and a half years as a firefighter for the city of Warner Robins. And I'm so grateful for my opportunity during that time to have been a firefighter. And worked my way up the ladder a little bit, but to have that in my blood is something that I'll go to my grave proud of that I did. Didn't get rich doing it. I want to point that out, but I loved every minute of my career in the fire service.
Yeah.
The fire training center, however, is something that I'm quite jealous of, because we didn't have anything like that. But I will tell you this: very few people do.
Right.
That is a state-of-the-art, world-class fire training center right here in the city of Warner Robins. In fact, we have people from other places that are coming to look at it, wanting to know how they can go about getting a place like that. Start with, you got to have leadership that's willing to make the investment, and we have for many years, that are willing to make the investment in our public safety departments. And so that training center is absolutely phenomenal. They can do everything they need in the way of training, and then it's continuing to grow as well. So it is absolutely it's worth riding by it just to see what we have here in the city of Warner Robins. And so, I mean, I don't know what I could say. You could do live burns in it. You can do
multiple levels.
It's multiple levels. You can do rappelling with ropes. You can do, I mean, everything you need to do to train in the fire service, you can do right here in Warner Robins at our fire training center. It's phenomenal, and we are very proud of our fire training center. A little bit jealous if you're a former firefighter, but listen, I could probably go out there and put the gear back on and go in if I wanted to, but I know my limitations now as well. So,
For
and
sure.
that is that I'm 60 years old now, and I don't do that anymore.
Well, yeah. So just to put an exclamation point on, if you or anyone you know is interested in applying for work with our fire department, those applications are open through tomorrow. So make sure you pass that along. And, speaking of hiring, when we look back on the last several years, really, if you think about it, I know that hiring and leadership development and promotion has been a priority for you during your time as mayor. And I'd love for you, if you could just share a little bit about the leadership in the city from a department head level, and really how that's changed over the past.
Yeah. First of all, let me just say that our public safety is incredible. We have a police department that I'm very proud of as well, and we're always taking applications for police officers as well. So that's a great career, because you're either in the public safety world, you're either a firefighter or a police officer, not both. So I think when I took office, there was certainly some discrepancies in diversity and in leadership roles, and so I wanted to start from kind of mid-management and bring them up. And so I've tried to do that the best I can. I know they're making some huge strides in law enforcement, in bringing on more diversity, and in the fire department as well. You're seeing more firefighters come on, more women firefighters than we've ever had, and certainly more minority level firefighters. And then they're growing up into the leadership roles as well. On the director level, we had, when I first took office, we had 0 females in leadership roles as directors, and I think at last count now we have 5 females and possibly 6. I can't remember to count right off, but of course, one of my philosophies is if you want it done really right, get a female to do it, and I'm not ashamed to say that because I have worked for some and worked for one at home, so I know that role very well. And then in the minority level, we also have currently 3 department directors that are African Americans, and I think I think in the city of Warner Robins, in our department directors, and I say this, every department director we have, is that we have the finest team, bar none, in the state of Georgia, if not all over the Southeast. And so I'm very proud of the leadership. I do not believe, and I want to be careful about saying this, I do not believe in putting people in leaderships based on their ethnicity or their gender. But the leadership we have in place right now have all earned it, and they are doing an incredible job in what they're doing. And I'm very proud of the diversity and the inclusion level in our department directors. But more than that, I'm proud of the job they're doing and the direction we're taking the city of Warner Robins.
Well, that's awesome. And I will tell you, it really is a testament to having a strong team and people who have been part of, taking care of our community for a really long time and seeing them grow into leadership positions is very exciting to see from the outside. So, Mr. Mayor, before we move on, I'd love to thank our series presenting sponsor, Synovus. They have championed our Eggs and Issues series, through bringing 250 of you together in person to the entire year of 2020 being virtual, which is different from a sponsor standpoint. But we want to thank them for their continued investment in the chamber and the critical work that we've been able to do as a result of that. We've got a quick word from Synovus, and then we'll be right back.
Here is where we're from. Here made us who we are. Here is where we learn relationships are worth more than dollars can measure. It's a value that grows over time, strengthens under pressure, and thrives when serving others. We're Synovus, and we're here for our community because we live here too. Synovus, the bank of here.
All right, so Mr. Mayor, over the last, I don't know, it's been maybe a month ago at this point, but for a while there in late February, March, you and I both were getting a lot of questions, fielding a lot of calls about trash, specifically at an old bank building here on Watson. And first of all, I want to thank the city, Bill Mulkey, code enforcement, and public works for all that they did to respond to those issues. That was certainly not an issue created by the city, or really something that's the city's job to clean up. But you were responsive in your approach to handling this. And I know you and your office have worked behind the scenes with property owners on that particular property. But can you just share from a global standpoint about what resources are available if people have concerns about trash in our community, and then maybe speak a little bit about what the city can actually do, especially when it's on private property, as this particular case was?
Right, certainly. I think that the number one thing that people need to do is not assume that we already know about it. Yes, the one incident that you speak of was on Watson Boulevard, and somebody should have taken notice of it. In fact, somebody had, and they were working out what is normally the procedure to go about handling a situation like that. When it became a major issue on social media, then I was made aware of it. Believe it or not, I don't travel that road every day, and so I did not know about that situation. And so we handled that situation somewhat differently, but we were also looking at some pretty aggressive strategies to handle that situation. Obviously, that situation involved a deeper situation in that it involved an individual that is apparently, and I have actually spoken to the gentleman, is dealing with some serious mental health issues, and that's a bigger problem for another day. And so he was struggling with how he was operating. And so we had to handle that a little bit differently, a little more aggressively than we normally do and normally maybe even can. But in doing that, I was able to talk to one of the owners of that building and found out that there was a plan in place, and they were moving forward with the sale of that property to even maybe you can look at it in a positive light, to maybe even begin somewhat of a renovation of that area with a new office complex there. So that's exciting on that level. But I want to stress that we are as proactive as we can be in code enforcement, but at the same time, there's 37 square miles of Warner Robins. And so if you see a problem, if you have a problem in your neighborhood that you think maybe we don't know about or we haven't addressed yet, then please call my office. We'll pass it on to building and transportation down to code enforcement. We'll get that taken care of. But we can't just go into somebody's house or somebody's yard and say, you have to cut your grass this way, or you have to cut your bushes this way. And that becomes very, I guess, disruptive in that people think we have the authority. You don't want us to have that kind of authority, to go in and tell people how they have to keep their yards. They do have certain guidelines that they have to follow, and we can go out there and we can meet with them and tell them what's required, and we can then write citations for them if they don't do what they're required to do. And then we can, ultimately a lot of, not, probably a good bit of them end up being rental properties. And so we have to then contact the owners of those properties, and then we can eventually put liens on the properties, which you basically never get anything out of. We can eventually go in and do the work and then put the lien on the property or charge the people, and you very seldom get anything out of that. But it's a process. It's a legal process that we have to follow.
And there are limitations to what you can legally do at different steps along the way as well.
Right. Absolutely. And like I said, the citizenry wants there to be limitations on what we can do as a government. So they're there to protect the citizens and to protect the community. But we do realize that there are certain areas in our community that we need to be a little more aggressive in, and we're certainly looking and talking about those plans. But we also have done a great deal of work in the area of blight and cleaning up areas, down around the older parts of town. And that's always a conversation that interests me, is that what you see off the base is the oldest part, and it's the most need of work. And listen, the base was built in the 1940s. Right. And so the parts that you see from off the base are the oldest parts of town. And so, yes, they are going to be the ones most in need. It's not indigenous to Robins Air Force Base and Warner Robins, I can tell you, because if you go to just about any base out there that's got any age on it like ours, you're going to see the same thing from the gates of the base. And every community that has a base of like ours, they're dealing with the same situations. And I think we've done a great deal of work through private citizens who are buying up some of the property and renovating some of the older property, to us buying up some of the property the best we can and tearing down the dilapidated buildings when possible. And we've done a lot of work over the last years in that area. There's just so much more to do.
Right. Yes. And just quickly, if people want to proactively be part of efforts to beautify and clean up our communities, who can they get involved with?
They can get involved with Keep Warner Robins Beautiful. They can get involved with community development. They can get involved. Listen, here's the thing that they can do. They can get involved with stopping somewhere and picking up trash. But I think the biggest thing for citizens is don't throw trash out. Right. I mean, it is so frustrating for me to be riding down the road and see somebody throw out a bag, on the streets and know that I'm going to get a call about that.
Right.
But we had a city hall employee the other day that went out to get the payments out of the drop box, and I commended him for his work that he did. While he was out there, I watched him pick up about 5 pieces of trash before he went back in the building. And so our employees are involved. And so you can always call and report something, but if there's anything you can do, it is encouraging, April. I will tell you this, the number of churches and the number of organizations and the number of businesses even that reach out to me and want to know what they can do to help. How can they get involved with cleanup? And so it's taking place. It's just, we're a pretty big town now.
Right.
It's hard to see the effort that's being put in by citizens and by city employees.
Yeah, very good. Well, let's talk about something more fun, which is growth. There's a lot of different growth points we want to cover in this last 15 minutes. So you hinted a little while ago about sewer capacity. Of course, people automatically think about the Bon Air area.
Right.
That can you just kind of share where we are on that?
Yeah, I mean, we've certainly started the process. We approved the bonds to expand the sewer capacity. We have two major areas that are pretty much at capacity, and though we have growth in those areas, unfortunately, the answer a lot of times is we don't have that much capacity in our lines. And it's not the treatment plant itself. The treatment plant itself is capable. We have plenty of capacity there. It's the lines themselves. And so we're expanding the lines. We're making the lines bigger, and specific areas are Bon Air because it's certainly growing out there. And we have some areas out there, frankly, that are on our sewer that are not in the city yet. And so, part of my job, whether people understand it or like it or not, is to find a way to continue to expand and provide services to those areas so that we can eventually bring that tax base into the city. Now, some of it we're actually getting tax money on with a partnership we have with the county, but not all of it. And so we want to expand the services so that we can provide services to the Bon Air area. So that's one of our areas. And then the area out at House and Lake in 96, what we call the Kroger area, we're close to capacity out there as well. And so we're specifically looking at expanding those two areas capabilities. So, but that also takes some of the pressure off of some of the expansion we're doing out in the Peach County part of Warner Robins, the Buc-ee's area and that kind of stuff. And so when we alleviate the problems in certain areas, then it frees up some capacity in other areas as well. So it's an overall plan. It's not a plan that was created over the last couple of months. It's a plan that's actually been in place for 20 years. And I'll say it's part of a 20-year plan to get where we need to be. And it just been kind of delayed, and we finally had to act on it or stop growing. And it's really difficult. It's really difficult to stop growing, especially when you're growing at the pace we are right now.
Right. Absolutely. Well, and speaking of growth, speaking of Buc-ee's, there's been a lot of growth and development over the last really 24 plus months. East of 75, Buc-ee's. We've got the Visitors Information Center that's coming online, the Vietnam Veterans Park, the new Crestview Drive extension, and the Robbins International Industrial Park. Can you share a little bit about, all of that momentum and maybe what you attribute the growth to?
Yeah, that's a lot.
It is a lot, but I mean, how exciting, right?
Yeah, so Buc-ee's is exciting. Buc-ee's was a fun process to be involved in. Buc-ee's came to us and they were asking for certain things, and most of it they got, and because they are such an incredible company that provides that kind of economic impact to our communities. Not just one community, but several communities. And so that was a fun thing. But they said, for example, they said they have been looking at that site for over 3 years, and they were coming to Warner Robins no matter what. And so they came. And then the Visitors Information Center and the Vietnam Veterans Memorial is a very exciting project. It's one that's been going on for far too long, but we're finally at the threshold of seeing a groundbreaking at that place and seeing the Visitors Center, and then the Vietnam Veterans come up. The Vietnam Veterans Memorial Park area is going to be an incredible place. It's going to be a place that brings people to Warner Robins, as if Buc-ee's doesn't already. It's going to bring people to Warner Robins to see their loved ones or their friends' names on a wall. The veterans, the Vietnam veterans in Middle Georgia, have done an incredible job of putting together a list of names of the Vietnam veterans who died in Vietnam from the state of Georgia and the cities from which they came. And so those are going to be put on the walls by the name and the city. And so we believe that people are going to come here to see those names, etch them on paper. And so we're excited about that and honoring our Vietnam veterans, continuing to do that as we move along. And so that's going to be a really neat project. The Warner Robins Industrial Complex is growing. We don't really know yet. Obviously, we're putting a water tower out there, and it's going to, provide water better to that area. It's going to free up some water that we use from Houston County for Houston County to continue to grow as well. that area out there, is, as you know, is in Peach County. So we have Warner Robins is mostly in Houston County, but some of it's in Peach County, and that area is in Peach County. But we do right now, we buy water from Houston County at wholesale to be able to use that in that area, and we're building a water system out there now that's going to help. And so right now we have one business there. We have another one soon to come, and it's kind of, you almost kind of want to slow things down to get your hands around it. But if you do, you're afraid it's going to stop. And so we don't know what that's going to become out there. But with the Crestview Road extension, there's, again, the word potential. There's a lot of potential for things that Warner Robins has never really had before.
Yeah.
In the area of industry and those kind of things. But the commercial side is on the south side. I believe that you're going to see more commercial growth, more hotels, more restaurants on the south side of Russell Parkway out there in that area. So I sometimes you just ride the wave, and we're certainly on the wave right now.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting. So any kind of benchmarks or timeline on the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Park or the VIC?
Well, yeah, I mean, as far as when it would be completed, it would be difficult to do that, but we're actually designing it now.
Okay.
So even before we're actually officially closed on the property, we had a contract on that already. So we're already meeting with the contractors on that and get that up and going. So in the next few weeks, hopefully we'll close on the property. And because we've already been doing the design meetings, we'll be able to break ground and get going right away. And so there's a lot of things that are already in place for that. And so it's going to be, once it happens, once we close on the property, it's going to be rapid succession to see that thing finished.
Perfect. So that's really the next benchmark. So we've got a lot of comments, people asking about specific developments coming like Costco or Sam.
Yeah.
I know I've been hearing
about
that
was coming
well before I got here. So what was that you just said?
I said, who didn't know the Costco question was coming?
I know.
It comes up everywhere I go. So.
Yep. So any secret sauce with Costco? I know we know kind of the process they go through, but anything you want to share with the community?
Yeah, I tell people all the time, any question, and this comes from my history of speaking to a lot of school children as well, is that any question is acceptable to me as long as you understand the answer might be either I don't know or none of your business.
Right.
And so, and that's when school kids typically ask how old my wife is, and I give them the answer, none of your business. And so that's how that part of it. Yeah, they actually do ask how old.
Do they really? I'm surprised they don't ask how old you are.
They ask how old. One specifically said, "How old are you, and how old is your wife?" And I said, "I'm 60, and my wife is none of your business."
Right.
So, and
my
she's
wife
not.
is beautiful.
That's right. So I don't know. I don't know that. I know that every company like Costco has parameters. They have basic numbers that they go by. That the community has to be this big and in this location. And so the hope is that one day Costco will say, why are we leaving out Warner Robins? And they'll come here. But right now the answer is just, I don't know. I don't know how to get them to come here when we're not on their radar right now.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's the same way, Sam's, Trader Joe's, any of those that we hear, they have a formula, they pick you. They're not one of those companies that we can go after and recruit. But I do, I love that people, I believe that, we're an ideal location for one of them. So I think it certainly doesn't hurt to continue to express.
But it's important to remember too, though, that Buc-ee's is that kind of company.
Absolutely.
But when they finally made their way to my office, they said, we've been looking at this location for 3 years.
Right.
And so it's not like Costco. It's not like Sam's or Trader Joe's or anybody like that. It's not like they're not already looking at us.
Right.
It's just that we don't know it.
Yes, exactly. Well, let's talk about another growth point that, continues to spur discussion from people, and that's development in our downtown or the commercial circle area.
Yeah, certainly there, and I've talked about it, and I can only talk about it peripherally, but there are local developers that are certainly looking into the prospect of developing downtown. There are Certainly there's some things that I don't know about that I think are happening. There's some things that I do know about that I'm not at liberty to talk about, but there is some attention being given to downtown. There's also some potential development going on in other parts of town that we believe those developers could eventually have an interest in our downtown area as well. I did get a call the other day, and again, it's part of the position that that somebody is looking at some land, and this was an unexpected source. It's not a local developer, but it's somebody that's looking to bring a small business to our downtown area. We had a Zoom call, and that went well. And it's my understanding. In fact, these kind of companies, when they come in, sometimes, and it kind of hurt my feelings a little bit. I told them I could meet with them on the land, and they said we're not there yet, and they came down when I didn't even know about it, and they've already looked at some property downtown. And so I think it's progressing to a point where we're going to start seeing some changes downtown, and I'm excited about that. But there are also some things downtown that are mainstays to our community. You know, what are you ever going to do with McCall's other than continue to promote McCall's, because
Absolutely.
they are Warner Robins, right? And so when I talk to developers who are interested, and I hope I'm not out of line in saying this, but when I talk to developers that are interested in downtown, I always let them know they got to build around McCall's.
Yeah,
because McCall's is our home. It's our mainstay to our community. And so, and then there's, you know, I mean, you got to do something with Tina's Barbershop. And, you know, just on a side note, Miss Tina that owns the barbershop downtown right near McCall's, her husband recently passed away, Tina and Juan Chumacero. And I had the awesome privilege of preaching Mr. Juan's funeral after he passed away. And he was from Bolivia, and he came to Warner Robins in 1975, and he had his own business, Custom Cuts and Styles, for 31 years in Warner Robins. And so what an honor to have people like that in our community, which truly is why we're the international city.
That's incredible. And you're absolutely right. I mean, you know, we think about, you know, Warner Robins and maybe it not being, you know, an old historic community, but there really is a lot of history and character in the older part of town. And I think it's important that we preserve that while we look to the future with development and growth. So, you know, as we kind of wrap up our discussion today and really look forward to resuming these meetings and others in person, I know the city is very excited to be bringing back the Independence Day celebration. So what can you share with us today on those plans and where you are in that timeline?
I think I'm at liberty to say that we are going to have an Independence Day celebration. It's going to be on July the 2nd. And it's going to be, I'm 99% sure it's going to be back at the MAC, in the parking lot of the MAC. And there's certainly been some changes because of the gymnasium built over there. And we're working with the Board of Education and working with Mr. McCook at Warner Robins High School about the dynamics of how we're going to do it out there. We have some offers out to talent. Some we feel good about, and some we're probably not going to get this year. But it's part of the game. And when I say we, the company that we use does a great job every year in bringing us the talent pool and the possibilities. And so we're looking at some different areas. You know, we want to celebrate certainly the birth of our nation.
Yeah.
But we also want to celebrate almost the rebirth of our community and being able to get back together and be in person and be live and have a concert and have fireworks. That our fireworks are the best around. And, you know, we still want to have all that flavor to the best we can possibly do. We definitely want to. And I want to say this, we're still, as we move, who knows how many years, April, into the future, we're still going to be thinking about COVID-19 and this global pandemic we've been in. So I just want to encourage everybody to be courteous of other people, even on July the 2nd, when we have who knows. And we're still working out the details on that. Is there going to be a limit to the number of people we can let in? But the parking lot at McConnell Talbert Stadium is big, right? And so we can work it out, and we're going to have a great show. We're going to have some great music, and we're going to have wonderful fireworks, and we're going to be back together, and that's the exciting thing. And so it's not necessarily a committee here, but we have people that work on that, and then Alan Tapman and Todd Elmore that are the team that helps us with that. We've all been, and listen, Alan Tapman's been involved with this Independence Day celebration every year.
Since the beginning, yeah.
The beginning. And so I just like to praise Alan because he's involved in it. He's connected to it as much as anybody I know, to be honest with you. So this is real to them too. It's personal to them. And so it's going to be a great show. And I'm so excited to be able to have it again and be able to see people all together celebrating the birth of our nation and the reopening and the rebirth of our community.
I love it. Well, it's definitely something to look forward to. And Mr. Mayor, I just want to thank you for your time today. I know that doing these virtual interviews isn't exactly something that you or I really look forward to, but I do think it's important that we continue to provide access to information, to communicate with and for our community, because there is a lot of exciting things to share. And if we didn't share them now, we would have missed the opportunity to really highlight some great things that have happened in the last 12 months.
That's right. And I think as we get through this reopening of our communities, I think the best thing that we can all do is focus on the good. We've had so much negative over the last year and a half. And I, back to mayor and council right now, I think that's the communication we're having with each other right now is that let's look at the good we have going on. Let's fix the things that needs fixing.
Right.
Let's look at some of those areas, but look at the good stuff we have going on in the city of Warner Robins. Let's focus on that. Let's draw people to Warner Robins and let's be a team and move things forward. And that's what we need to do as a whole community. So thanks again, April, to you and your staff, to the Robins Regional Chamber of Commerce. This has been fun.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure to host you today, and we'll see you soon. Thank you to everyone for joining us today. I know you'll join me in thanking the mayor for sharing these important updates with us today. So that's going to wrap up our program, and I hope you all are as excited as we are about our return to our in-person breakfast starting in just a few weeks on May the 13th with our legislative breakfast. But in the meantime, make sure you stay in the know by reading our weekly emails and join the discussion on Robins to Go and Robins Works. Thank you for letting us start your day with you. We'll see you all soon.